All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the BK Lounge podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about something that is, I would say, borderline an epiphany for us. And I think will be a big turning point in the podcast. Something we're very excited about.
Yeah.
So, today we're kind of going to talk about what we did to focus the podcast a little bit, because our podcast was very generic. We just kind of had a wide range of topics that we wanted to talk about.
We've just been both so lucky to have so many resources and just amazing people that provided so much for us.
Right.
And we want to be able to share all of those things too. And we were struggling. Well, how do we need to be able to explain our podcast in one sentence.
Yeah, it has to be pretty simple, and it's one of our biggest struggles was coming up with talking points because we didn't narrow down our general basis enough and what our podcast is actually about. So the niche that we knew we wanted to be in was providing people resources to pave their own way through life and to help themselves grow, whether that's financially, spiritually, professionally, whatever. And so today we kind of just sat down for 10 or 15 minutes and we really just talked. We didn't write anything down. We just went back and forth on what our podcast idea, our podcast theme should be and what we want to do.
Basically, we just kept saying what we felt it was in different ways until something really clicked.
Until we got that one sentence mission statement that we said, okay, this is what our podcast is.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission statement and what our podcast is about is self-development tools and strategies for people who are ready to take control of their own lives.
Because one thing we've really realized is, you know, you're young and you're told what to do. Not like, oh, you need to go clean your room way, but
right.
You're told what to do. You're raised.
You're kind of told what path to take.
Yeah, and you're given, some people have a lot of freedom, some people have a little bit of freedom, but pretty much you're being told to do, whether it's from your parents or you are putting pressure on yourself from your peers or your school, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But it is not until you decide that you are going to take control that things really change. I just feel like that is the one thing that I've been trying to think over and over. What are lessons we've learned together? What is something that really clicked for us? What is, something to provide, not only just a story, but hopefully give an example of tools and strategies like
our mission statement says.
To help people. And it finally hit that once we realized that we are in control, we're in control of how much money we make. Mm-hmm. We're in control of our well-being and our relationship. We're in control of ourselves.
None of it is easy, but
no.
The kind of good and bad thing is you have control over it. So you have to take the initiative to say, okay, I'm going to better my life in this way, and this way.
Yeah, it's like, when you're wanting to work out, you can want to work out and you can want to get fit as much as you could possibly ever desire something. But nothing is going to happen until you get off the couch. It doesn't matter if your friends and family are rooting for you. It does not matter.
I don't know. For our YouTube, people watching on YouTube, I'm not sure if you can read this right here, but I have a sticker on the back of my phone that says, just start. And that's something that's very near and dear to us because we've realized that we have all these ambitions and these goals and these dreams, but nothing is going to happen. They're going to stay all of those things, goals, ambitions, and dreams, unless we just start. Unless we do it.
Yeah, and there's always what if this isn't the right way? What if we should have done that? Or what if this isn't the good time? Or what if we don't know enough? That's not what it's about. If you are dedicating your time and effort and energy to actually doing something about it, not just thinking about it, whether you're writing down your goals, check out episode 1 if you haven't already.
Is it episode 1 or episode 2?
Episode 2 if you haven't already. Or you're fleshing out your goals or whatever it is. When you're physically taking steps, you're starting. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, you might hit a speed bump. The Oh, what's the thing you always hear in school? Who invented the light bulb? Thomas Edison?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to say
he learned 100 ways not to make a light bulb. He didn't fail 100 times. It's literally that. And it sounds so dumb and corny.
You have to... Failure is a breeder of success.
Yeah.
I mean, success comes from failure.
Failure is unavoidable, but failure is also not an option.
Well, and failure is not an option as in... I'm not going to let things that happen in my life stop me from achieving my goals. But you will fail throughout life. And
yeah, but that's not your end point.
Right. What I've learned, I'm currently reading this book right here, Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss. And one thing I've learned from that book is you have to embrace failure. Because when you fail, you learn new ways to succeed.
Well, and I mean, I've been seeing this a lot on Facebook too. People talk about when a baby tries to walk, they don't get up, try to walk, and fall down and think, this isn't for me.
Right.
Failure is something that I think you create failure in your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when you're a child, you're an infant. When you don't do something right, you don't think, well, I'll never walk.
Right.
So what's the point? Like, why would we sit here and be like, we'd never be successful podcasters?
And we have done that in the past. I would say 6 to 8 months ago, we wrote a blog, and it was all about helping small businesses promote their company via social media and digital marketing. And we were going strong for a while, and, we had...
It was also our last semester of college.
Right.
And not that timing is ever an excuse whatsoever, but...
That definitely was a factor into why it didn't work out.
Finishing your college degree is probably not the time to A, get a dog like we did, or B,
mistake number 1.
Start a blog.
Exactly.
No dogs, no blogs, your final semester.
But it just kind of fizzled out after a while. And when it got to the point where we weren't writing any more blog posts, we said, we failed and that just wasn't for us. But you can't think like that.
We also did not have the correct intentions behind
that we were
blog. Doing
it for money. We were doing it in hopes of that becoming our career, which is fine, but that can't be your number one priority. You have to do it because you love it.
The only thing we cared about.
Exactly. You have to do, when you have these dreams and aspirations, you have to do them because you love them. And one of the quotes I really love is find what you're passionate about and figure out how to make money doing it. Because if you're passionate about it, you're going to be doing it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
One quote that you shared today on Facebook, I don't think it said who wrote it.
No, it was just from an Instagram account.
Right, but it says, how do you know you're doing the right thing in life? You're happy, genuinely happy. And I think that couldn't be more true because you and I, like in college and in jobs right after college, we just think to ourselves, okay, we're on this path to get, who knows where.
And I mean, you do have to provide for yourself. So
yeah.
There are things that we do that we don't love, but
they're to support our passions.
To support this. Yeah, we're not saying if you love something, forget everything else.
Quit your job, right? Yeah, we're not saying any of that.
No.
You have to be able to support yourself, support your family, number one. But you have to take legitimate steps to achieving your goal. Because if you don't, all it's going to be is a goal. And it's never going to be, something you have achieved.
Yeah, exactly.
So... what else do we want to talk about? Was there anything else? I feel like we had a couple more topics. The main thing that we want you guys to take away from this episode is take action right now. It doesn't have to be something huge. It doesn't have to be spending $1,000 on, podcast equipment or anything like that. You have to write down your goals, figure out what you want to do, and take actionable steps towards that end goal.
Yeah. I think one reason, going back to the blog, sorry, I had this in my mind and then I was just staring at you and forgot. One reason, though, that the blog didn't work is because I'm a much more, deeper thinker.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say you don't think deep, but I am much more an emotional thinker.
Right.
And I am learning to be more in touch with the universe and things like that, but I really think just how we were doing the blog, we just weren't, it wasn't our calling.
It wasn't.
And I never understood people when they say God put this in my heart, or I felt this, or whoever you pray to, whatever you pray to.
Right.
When they would say, it's a calling and he told me or they told me or it told me that I need to do this. I never understood that. And with the blog, I think we needed to do the blog.
Because one of Tim Ferriss's questions is, what is your favorite failure? And that by far is my favorite failure because it gave us a lot of good experience, website building, writing, marketing, things like that. And B, we realized that wasn't what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so we moved on from that.
We did give it a try. And I know, like you said, if we would have stuck with it, we would have done a good job. But I understand what it means now to say, like, I think when you find your calling, I think when you want to give up on something, that's a sign that maybe it's time
we weren't happy. That goes back to that quote. How do you know you're doing the right thing? You're genuinely happy.
It all ties in together. Maybe that's a sign that I wouldn't necessarily even call it a failure. It's just like a stepping stone. Like you have to think about where you are right now. Everybody listening, everybody. And think about all the things that you thought at the time were so hard or were so easy or were so significant or so insignificant. We were just talking to my aunt about this. Aunt Melanie. Love you. She'll be on the podcast soon. But it's true. Think about it. Every single one of those things were perfectly placed to get you to where you are now.
Exactly.
And so, yes, technically the podcast was, air quotes, a failure because we stopped.
The blog.
The blog, not the podcast.
The podcast is not a failure, and it
back,
will not be a failure.
No, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Right.
And it was a stepping stone. And it was getting us, it was our start of getting content out for ourselves, not working for somebody else or, having an assignment. It was us doing it on our own. I'm going to sneeze.
And we spent, I would say, $600 or $700. Bless you. We spent a ton of money on the blog, and
so much.
I'm okay with it. Yeah. I don't regret it at all because
some of it was for classes about how to work with like Pinterest and stuff like
that.
But
I don't regret like even the money that we spent on the WordPress site that we only had the website for 6 months and then we got rid of it. I'm okay with that because the lessons that we learned and the skills we gained from that allowed us to start this podcast and market ourselves and hopefully make a career working for ourselves in the future.
But I think also a huge part of the reason you are okay with that, which is something everybody could learn from something they think is a failure, is just accepting it. You can't hold on to it. You can't
in the past,
beat yourself
you can't
up.
Change it.
Because for a long time, you were pretty upset about
it. Genuinely, because in my head, I was thinking, this was my chance to work for myself, and it failed, so I'm never going to be able to work for myself. And it was really discouraging. But Gary Vee has a great quote. He says, do something for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, take the skills that you learned from it and move on to the next thing, And I think,
the quotes we've brought up from other people, those are the next stepping stones from our blog.
Right.
I'm getting these confused.
I know.
The quotes, the TED Talks, the podcasts we would listen to, all of those things were perfectly given to us at the correct time, or we found them at the perfect time.
Right.
And we're able to utilize that. All life is we were just talking about it. I'm like, Bryce, what else out there is there to discover? What else out there is profound that we could share? And he was like, Mackenzie, inventions aren't even inventions anymore. You're just inventing an easier way to do something.
Improving on existing things.
And I think that is the most important thing is, yes, personally, I could see somebody do something, see where they made a mistake, learn from them, but I still have to do it myself.
Right.
But as I'm getting older, I'm letting go of that, and I'm just trusting more like other people's stories. And we don't want all of our podcasts, every single episode, to just be a story that we've done, and we hope you pick up on the lesson that we learned.
Yeah, we're trying to bring some concrete value and give you guys some actionable steps that you can take to, better yourself. Like we said in the beginning, self-development tools and strategies. That's what we're trying to bring to the table.
Yeah, for me personally, the way I am moved the most by especially podcasts or TED Talks is hearing a story. And so here I am in my own mind trying to do what worked best for me, but I have to be open to other types of, structure of a podcast, because maybe the person listening to this is not much of wants to learn from a story. They want tools, they want facts right off the bat.
Exactly.
And it's not something that it's not I think some people like to tell stories because you can interpret it different ways, but that's not always going to work for everybody.
No.
And
so we're trying to find that healthy balance, especially for our audience, and what works for us of telling the stories, giving our experiences, but also sharing the lessons that we learned and giving you actionable steps so you can avoid those mistakes or overcome mistakes that you've already made.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it that we have.
I do have one quote that I wanted to share that's really impacted me.
Okay, yeah.
It was a YouTuber, and I can't remember who it was, but it kind of ties back to that take action now. And you think, okay, we've been doing this podcast for 2-3 weeks, and we haven't seen a ton of growth, like nothing exponential or anything.
We've been shown a lot of support, which
absolutely, and we
totally
greatly
love and appreciate.
But think about if we would have started 3 years ago, if we'd been doing this for 3 years. And so you have to take that mindset and be patient, because it's not going to happen overnight, regardless of what it is. If you want to be a professional basketball player, if you want to start your own podcast, if you want to be a freelance writer, it's not going to happen overnight, but just keep putting the work in and keep taking those steps towards your goal. Because 2 years from now, you're going to look back and think, man, if I hadn't started that 2 years ago, I don't know where I would be right now.
And I think that is something that's really hard for people our age, is we want instant gratification.
100%. It's hard for us to see long term.
Yeah, but I tell you what, the long term feels so much better than something that happens just instantaneously.
It really does. It really does.
Seeing all that hard work, that's one of my favorite feelings, is going through something just difficult. And you feel like trash. You are like, I'm never gonna get through this.
Right.
Either you think I'm a bad person or I don't deserve blah blah blah. And then time goes by slowly, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, I made it.
Yeah, I got through that.
Even if you just think you survived it, you still made it through.
Right, exactly.
And there is nothing better than that long term.
That triumph.
Yeah.
After the end of it, we're not talking, it doesn't have to be a tragedy or anything. It could be living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
It could be working a job that you don't enjoy. It could be anything.
Yeah. But the important thing, especially that we've been talking about lately, is it's important to acknowledge the things that you didn't do well, but it is way more important to focus on the positive things.
Right.
Like we were talking about the podcast, and we were saying, I can't remember, and I was like, we've done so good. I was talking about going out and eating and going to the gym, and I was like, we've done so good going to the gym, and you were like, whoa, we haven't eaten good.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, hey,
you have to celebrate the small victories, no matter how small.
Yes, we didn't eat great this week, but it's a chance to improve. We can only get better. We're only going to get better.
If you take steps toward your goals and your dreams, you have to celebrate that.
Yeah.
And you can't let that, cloud your mind and just celebrate the victories. You have to think, okay, what's the next step? But you need to acknowledge those. So
yeah,
I think Cooper's whining is a signal for the end of the episode.
It's a short one today, but we're
not focusing on the length anymore.
No, we feel better. We feel more clear. We feel like we can provide better for our listeners, for our audience. We're
gonna say what we feel we need to say, and if it's 20 minutes, great. If it's 2 hours, great. We're just gonna provide the information that we want to provide. And hopefully you guys can take these steps and implement them and start working towards your goals. So I think the biggest thing to take away from today's episode is take action now, no matter how small or big it is. And just try to be consistent and do something every single day, no matter the size of it, to get you towards your dreams and your goals.
And if you are feeling stuck or confused, reach out to us.
We are more than happy to help.
We were there so many times where we felt we just didn't know how to start. And again, I'll say this every single episode, we are not experts. We don't have all the answers. But if you need that little bit of push, if you need that motivation, that's what we're here for. That's what we want to provide for you. So don't ever feel embarrassed, afraid, shy to reach out to us. We wouldn't be
where we are and have, the courage that we have without asking questions, without reaching out to people that are more established for advice and, things like that.
Yeah.
So, well, I think it's going to do it for today's episode. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. If you're watching on YouTube, we would love if you would subscribe, like, and share the video. Anywhere else, share it with someone that needs it, or, just...
Or if you have somebody that you're really inspired by, send us a message of their name.
Right.
Ask, we are just very interested in success and how people get there and what they overcame and how they overcame it. So
yeah, and we're always looking for guests to have on the podcast too. So if you have any guests that you want to see on, send us a recommendation, point them our way, and we would love to connect. And
don't be afraid. If you feel like you have something really awesome, then tell us.
Let us know.
Yeah,
we are open to anyone and everyone.
Yeah, we would love to share your experiences because
Exactly.
it's a 2-for-1 deal where you get to heal by talking about it and other people hopefully get a chance to learn from it.
Exactly.
So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Bryson Kinsey.
Yep.
Like, share, subscribe,
We
follow.
appreciate all your guys' support, and this is, I think this is kind of a turning point in the podcast because we have a focus now, and we know what we want to talk about.
Yep, clear
and
mission.
Every single episode, we're going to really focus on giving you guys actionable steps that you can take and implement in your own life. So we appreciate you guys listening and watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.